Boom. Right. I'm going back to the Guardian. And the same as yesterday. Your success isn't down to free will. Luck determines everything. And I shall put a link to it down below. Today. I went to the top with the intention of maybe reading something from the article, but nah. Right. So the American contingent, the Earth has turned and the Americans have spoken. So there are more comments, and it's still very interesting for me to watch this. So, just a simple girl comments, utter crap. Try hard work, grit, and making your own luck. And this is what the article's about. And it's quite American in its flavouring, that as long as you work hard, it's possible to make it. But we're starting to learn now that the economics of it now sorts out that sometimes, most often, you can work as hard as you like, but you'll still not make it. Right, some people are born with advantages, money and good looks, and still manage to have a miserable life. Others manage to cope with tremendous hardship and make a success of themselves. Also, why do we need to define success / happiness in terms of how much money you have? Trump might be his financial success. As a human being, he's a complete waste of space. Not everything is about what you earn. The universe is mainly about chaos. There isn't a nice, tidy little script written for everyone the moment you are born. So much is summed up in that comment, isn't it, really? I could spend months just on that one comment. But let's give other people a chance. So Sideways replies to just a simple girl. I think you're missing the point. I think she was missing many points. But we'll come maybe to that right at the end or sometime. Or let's just feed this in just to start so you can be thinking of it while these comments are coming up. She's missing the point. But why is she missing the point? As in, no, it doesn't make sense for me to say it like this, but I'm going to say it like this. Is she using her free will to miss the point? I think you're missing the point. Some people have the luck. Now, this is what the whole article's about, so this is why luck's been introduced. And I think it's quite actually helpful because it eases a lot of discussion where people get very upset about free will, no free will. Throw in luck and it's kind of a bridge, and it does ease things across. It's very useful. Some people have the luck to be born with the character traits that make them inclined to work hard. Now, that is just that's it, basically. I think that was it yesterday, and that is it today. So I'll read it once more. Some people have the luck to be born with character traits that make them inclined to work hard. Now, just shorten that up. Some people have the luck to be born with character traits, and that's it. That's what you've got in the world. Some people have the luck to be born with character traits, whatever they are, or obviously conversely or not, depending on how we label and look at these things. Some people are unlucky to be born with character traits. And the free will thing comes in. I'm going to repeat it because it's just not something that people understand even after 10 years of listening to it. There is not another thing that can overwhelm the character traits. A lot of people will say, well, you can have this character trait, but then you can use your free will to overwhelm that character trait. But whatever that is that's going to overwhelm the character trait is a character trait that you are lucky to be born with or not. Everything is something you're lucky or unlucky to be born with, or society has instilled in you up to the date that you are now. Everything. There is no extra thing, and this is what the whole free will argument is all about. There's no extra thing that is not subject to that law of the law of character traits. There is nothing else in here. It's all character traits. There's no extra magic that can act on character traits. All character traits. Sorry about that for the people who have been listening to me say it for 10 years. Because I don't really want to go on with his sentence because it goes a bit... it's not said very well, but it does expand on it. Luck to be born with character traits that make them inclined to do hard work, to try to make their own luck, grit, or whatever you call it. And some people don't. It's luck all the way down, like to have grit. If you're a gritty sort of person, it's a character trait that you're either born with or born with and then develops by society. Or you don't have grit. Although perhaps the really lucky people are those who happen to have the character traits that leave them content with their circumstances, whatever they may be. And we'll forget all the philosophy or the religiosity. That is just a plain facty thing. There are some simple people, because complicated people always overcomplicate things, but they're just simple enough to be content with their own circumstances, whatever they might be. They just go, oh, okay. That's the character trait that they have. And it's a character trait that a lot of try and get people with other more character traits to be more like. So he's quite right to say those who happen to have the character traits that leave them content with their circumstances, whatever they may be. Right, let's go down. Catch 18. If you treat others as you would wish to be treated yourself, you will be ahead of the game. Not to say that there aren't people who won't reciprocate, but in my humble opinion, you will still end up ahead. Other way to word it, what goes around comes around. I think this is the Americans that have come in here. And okay, it's been a very popular thing to say for a good while. Be nice to people, they'll be nice to you, and your life will be fine and dandy. Right, let's go on with comments. So the comment to that is, what goes around doesn't come around, though. Necessarily. You could be a kind-hearted person, but you get cancer, have been mugged and fall on hard times. No matter how hard you continue to be nice, it doesn't mean more awful things won't happen. Catch comes back. I'm currently fighting cancer. Fighting cancer. What a bit of programming that is. A strange thing to be saying, isn't it? Fighting cancer. And I have been mugged. I was beaten unconscious. Bad day to wear khakis. I peed my pants with the loss of consciousness. This was during the race riots in '67 at my high school. I don't think she's quite recovered from peeing her pants. I'm not being nasty, but these things stay and act in the future, and there's no overriding thing that can whoosh them away. So he comes back with, "That's awful sorry to hear. I look after people who are going through desperate times, but sometimes the worst things happen to the nicest people again and again." The universe is very big. You being nice to people is unlikely to impress the universe very much. But on a smaller scale, hopefully the people that you are nice to will reciprocate. But it ain't necessarily so. Are we at the bottom? No. But throughout the comment section, I think I used him yesterday, somebody called Let's Be Clear, who is rarely clear, is kind of the anti-no free will contributor. So he's quoting from either a commenter or the article, I don't know which. "And even if you became that kind of person by the sweat of your brow, you still must have already been the kind of person who could raise that sweat." Did we do this yesterday? So he says, "This is a conundrum only if you assume there are people who are by nature unable to improve their circumstances in however gradual a way." You see, this is what happens, and this is what I'd more likely talk about in this video. How is it? I mean, I'm saying there's no extra, it's just programs running, etc. That to try and prove his no free will argument, that's what he's trying to do, or at least bat for that team, he feels that he has to be tricky. Only if you assume there are some people who are by nature unable to improve their circumstances in however gradual a way. And in however a gradual a way, it's kind of a desperate sort of, if they really got out of bed or really tried that little bit harder, then surely they could improve their circumstances in a little way, gradually over their lifetimes. And that's what he wants to believe, and it's almost as though life's putting him down, and he's saying, "But I'm trying my bloody hardest, and I don't seem to be getting anywhere." But it's exactly that. If you assume that life might put you down, even if you have the mental fortitude to get out of bed and work hard, life can still put you down. But the thing that we're really moving on here is there are people that are born without the fortitude to get out of bed and be gritty and do a day's work. They are like that. And how do we know that they're like that? Because that is what they do. Right. So somebody tries to clear up, let's be clear. Not really. I think what he means to say is that even if someone is where he is due to hard work, it's simply because it's part of his character to be working for goals, which again is due to luck. Luck is everywhere. So I think they've got a relationship because it sounds like they've spoken before. So let's be clear comes with, you don't believe a person is free at any moment to choose. Say short-term gratification over sacrifice for a longer-term goal, ? And it's kind of a pleading. Nothing, absolutely nothing, we can't choose anything. But I don't think he's saying it like that. I think it's more with sarcasm. You don't believe a person to choose at any moment he can't choose. He goes through his whole life and he's not chosen a thing. It's just kind of, it's somewhere between desperation and more desperation. We know there are, so somebody else comes in to try and clear him up. We know that there are marked differences with how long people can delay short-term gratification. So somebody's just playing a scientific bat to him and has put a link to see the marshmallow experiment. But I'm sure you all have come across the marshmallow experiment. It's called sometimes it's called some other different things, but it's always a little treat given to a child to see how long that they can resist eating it. And if they do resist eating it, I think they're given double the dosage if they haven't eaten it. And they're followed up in later life, and the ones that do resist have proved to be more successful at this life thing. Something like that. See the marshmallow experiment, for example, and that it seems to correlate with how well they do. Differences start as early as 19 months old. There might be a genetic base, or there's one of nurture, but it certainly is a trend that starts far before we are able to rationalize all that complex behavior. As with many things, thinking rationally is a learned skill. We haven't yet quite developed that at 19 months into our lives. As mentioned in the article, delaying self-gratification can be taught, but we have no controlled environment and whether someone in your life teaches you how to do so or not, and that it's worth to do back down to chance, luck. It's badly written or badly read. It's all down to luck, if you like. I mean, if your parents don't teach you self-gratification, you won't know it. If it's the sort of thing that's taught, I would have thought that it's more nature, not nurture, but it's exactly the same. If you haven't got it in the beginning, you'll be either harder to be taught it, or you won't be able to be taught it unless you've got parents that absolutely bash it into you. And the nature and the nurture are all luck. And I think we even come to that in the end, if I remember me right, with our friend again. Let's be clear. Who tries to... he's desperate all the way through this. But he's decent about it. He's not nasty. Good genes is down to free will. Now, that sounds a ridiculous comment, and I'm sure he's put it that way. He's clever enough. Though, namely, the sexual choosiness of one's foremothers. Now, it is pretty desperate stuff. Good genes are down to free will, and that's to get your attention. And then he goes, yes, the sexual choosiness of your foremothers, your mother, grandmother, and all that lot. But it is desperate because it's just trying to stretch it out in time to confuse matters, to make it look as though he might have a point, and obviously he doesn't, as somebody comes straight in and tells him. And just how can the offspring determine parental composition? A time machine, perhaps? In other words, you can stretch it as far as you like, but it doesn't do you actually any good. Whoever you are at this particular time is what has been created by things previous. That there is no woofy-foof in you or anybody else that has created. Just genetic things have created it and societal things have created it. So we'll leave the last word with let's be clear, because he's been our foil throughout this. No, I was making the point that choosiness, free will, in brackets after it. See, people do this, and that's what I want to get to at the end of this, to end 19 minutes. I shouldn't really go that long. Contributes to luck in the future. So, no, I was making the point that choosiness, free will, contributes to luck in the future, i.e. that the genetic makeup of one's offspring, and then he goes on. I don't think we need to go over it. Do we? No, give him the chance. I did this because the article sets too narrow a temporal parameter for the conundrum, that of an individual's lifespan, when really the question of the role of luck over effort, or will, applies to generational time frames. To put it another way, much of the luck we enjoy now is down to the behaviour and decisions of our forebears, which in my view establishes the ongoing importance of trying always to do what's right and to do one's best. Okay, now, he finishes with something that nobody will argue with. which establishes the ongoing importance of trying always to do what's right and to do one's best. I don't know if he just realised that the argument he'd made before it, in the same paragraph, to put it another way, much of the luck we enjoy is down to the behaviour and decisions of our forebears, actually negates everything he said in the entire comment section. Because, to put it another way, much of the luck, all of the luck we enjoy is down to the behaviour and decisions of our forebears, is exactly right, and proving the no free will thing, and then tries to cover it up with, well, we should do what's right and do one's best, which nobody'll argue with. But it's got nothing to do with free will, except that you will always do what's right and you will always do your best if that's what your life has led you to do at that moment. Or, yeah. And if not, you won't. You see, do your best is an absolute beauty, isn't it? I think I've done a video on this before. You can't do anything else but your best. Everything you have ever done in your life is your best. Nobody has ever done anything even that much less than their best, because they've only ever been able to do one thing, and we can call it their best, or you can call it their worst, or you could call it their completely average performance. But it's only one thing they could ever have done, is the thing that they did actually do. Right, 22 minutes. Now, I wanted to kind of do something interesting at the end, but I don't know if I got time or can quite remember what it was. I think it went something along the lines of somebody like Let's Be Clear, who hasn't been clear, who's been desperately trying to pick holes in the no free will argument, using all sorts of desperate trickiness. Why? Not why as in, yeah, you could even say what is in his character to do this? As in, I'm opening this up. You know, we've done the free will thing. If anybody, it doesn't matter. But we've done the free will thing, surely. But we've talked about character traits. But what is the character trait of Let's Be Clear, who's done this argumentation up and down this comment section, who in the end just says, all right, there's no free will, but I don't think he even realised he wrote it, and then uses fluff like, let's always do what's right and do our best. What has caused this? See, this is almost an argument for free will or something. What's caused this? There's more than just character traits, or what we call character traits. I desperately don't want to bring ego into it, but ego, let's say ego is a character trait. Why, when, say, a rational argument is going so much against you, let's not even, we can say Let's Be Clear, or any religious people when Darwin kind of did his thing, and say we're 2 generations after Darwin and just about everybody has gone, all right, it does sound about right, that Darwin stuff. But then the religious people will still go on with their the earth is 6,000 years old, or whatever the thing is, or deny we ain't descended from monkeys. What is the character trait? Okay, the character trait we can establish is something like stubbornness and a couple of others. I don't want to use ego again, but I've said it's a character trait. So there's a strong ego component and stubbornness. and desperate desire not to have proved oneself to be wrong throughout one's life. But then, this is the point I'm getting to, there is a using, let's say, and this is why I think this is wrong, the way we describe it. There is a using, like this is a turning and this is a screwdriver, and this is coming over here. There is a turning, there is a using of intelligence, of logic, of let's just say intelligence. There's a turning of intelligence to work for the ego stubbornness. It's like the ego stubbornness can use intelligence to prove itself, which showing that the character traits, the ego stubbornness, are in a human brain the dominant factor. Intelligence actually isn't the dominant factor. It's the ego stubbornness on this occasion, and presumably other things on other occasions, that gets to use the fancy words to try and prove its cause. And these are just a tool that's used, or this is the tool. This is just a thing that's used by the tool. But it's interesting that the desperation is over here in what we'd call the character traits, because we don't really like to call intelligence and logic and reasoning character traits. They're kind of a thing that can be used, but it seems that the things that use it are the character traits. And presumably, well, obviously, the amount of reasoning power, word power, and all that intelligent rationality. No, rationality, see, that's a different one. How could something unintelligent use rationality? Maybe that's just a wordy hiccup. But that's what we've got with Let's Be Clear. And Let's Be Clear, quite a lot of the commenters I've dealt with over the last 10 years, and Darwin-type people have dealt with religious people, or just religious people in general, who have a desire over here that uses the logic over here for the desire over here. So I think what I'm saying is, let's not be kidding ourselves. This brain, the we, that we are, is not dominated by intelligence. The intelligence is used by whatever the dominant character trait is. And the character traits are the things, as shown in this comment section and video, are the things that we're born with and are created and developed by society. That is to say, we like to think that we are this. But it's not really as true to say as that we are this that uses this. We are base character traits. Sunday.